Today, our guest in this segment, Blaine Cowart. Blaine is the Senior Director of Homeowner Services for Dallas Area Habitat for Humanity. Blaine's been a part of Habitat now for nearly 10 years as an AmeriCorps member. She held a variety of roles on the Homeowner Services team, and her efforts have notably led to the expansion of the Homeownership Center, now a HUD-certified housing counseling agency serving over 1,000 families annually. And she has implemented Dallas Habitat's digital initiatives, greatly expanding access to financial education. In her current role, Blaine leads Dallas's Habitat homeownership counseling education and first-time homeowner buyership programs. And a great work Habitat for Humanity is doing, not only here in the Dallas area, but also nationwide. We know of the work, certainly, where former President Jimmy Carter has been involved in the work and the efforts of Habitat for Humanity on a national level. Let us welcome Blaine Cowart to the program right now and talk some Habitat for Humanity here in Dallas. Hi, Blaine. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, Gordon. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, thanks for being here. And, of course, as we continue to do these things from home, and we are resuming in many areas, but we're still, thank goodness the miracle of Skype and Zoom and other kinds of ways to do this. We're doing it from home, and I thank you so much for your time over these next few minutes talking about some really big things that are happening with Habitat for Humanity, not only on national levels we talked about, but here on a local level, some things that are happening. Give us some background, first of all, on how long you've been involved and a little bit about Habitat for those who may or may not know.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Blaine Cowart. I am the Senior Director of Homeowner Services for Dallas Habitat. I have been fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to work with Habitat now. In fact, next month will be my 9-year anniversary with the organization. Dallas Habitat, most people know Habitat for Humanity for building homes, and that's a really important part of our mission, but it's not the full story. What a lot of people don't know about Habitat is that the real work that we do in the community is preparing families for home ownership. And so we work with hundreds of first-time home buyers each year in the DFW area to help buyers become ready to buy a home. We do financial education and home buyer classes. We do one-on-one financial coaching and really help support buyers to find a home that's going to work for them.
So tell us, you said you've been involved for 9 years, and I'm sure you've seen a little bit of everything as well, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? I will say there is no greater job than to be able to see, individuals really realize their dream every day. And it may sound cliche, but really and truly, families that are on this journey, when they are able to realize a dream that seemed unachievable when they walk through our doors is the most heartwarming thing, you could ever imagine. And so my team and I have, we're incredibly blessed to be able to work one-on-one with every single one of these families and really see their attitude go from, I'm not really sure, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, to, wow, this is a real possibility for me, and I can do this for myself and for my children. So there's just no greater opportunity than to work, at an agency like Habitat.
Blaine Cowart, our guest here on Community for the next few moments here in this segment. But yesterday was a very special day as Habitat hosted a virtual. Now, again, we talked about this here at the top of the show at the program, how COVID-19 is affecting our lives, and we're kind of having to scramble and do things a different way. And we've become pros over these past 2 or 3 months in doing that. Well, Habitat hosted a virtual home dedication with 7 Dallas families. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Gordon, to your point, all of us are in this together, right? At Habitat, we have been incredibly affected by COVID-19. How we deliver the services to the families that we work with has had to change overnight, but it's all been very positive. One of the great things about everything that's been going on is that, everyone these days is using Zoom. Kids in the classroom to, workplaces and everything in between. And so in March, Dallas Habitat had originally scheduled what are called home dedications for each of our 7 newest Habitat homeowners. So these are families who have just recently completed their homeownership journeys and received the keys to their new house. And for Dallas Habitat, home dedications truly are probably the most special thing that we get to do. It's a moment to celebrate our families, recognize their achievement, and really bring together all of the hands, all of the hearts, everybody that's been here to support these families throughout their journey. And so we had scheduled these 7 home dedications for March, and of course, mid-March when quarantine began, we had to postpone and reimagine the dedications. And so we decided to take our dedications virtual. This is our first ever virtual home dedication that we did this weekend. And the great thing about going virtual is that now there's no limitation in terms of geography. Right? Anybody can join. And so not only do we have all of our local Habitat for Humanity volunteers and sponsors and supporters, and of course, our families, but we also had elected officials from across DFW. We even had Habitat for Humanity teams from across the country tune in to join us. So it was a pretty neat opportunity.
And of course, one of the things about Habitat, for those who may or may not know, is that you have sweat equity and hour fulfillments that go into these, and financial education, sweat equity, as we talk about on the job site, to be able to accomplish these goals and dreams, right?
That's exactly right. Habitat for Humanity, a lot of people think that what we do is give away free homes. That's actually not true. Families who buy Habitat homes pay a mortgage just like I do and you do for their home. The main difference is that they're able to purchase an affordable home by not having to contribute a financial down payment to purchase that home. So instead of putting down money for a down payment, families contribute their time. And at Habitat, we call that sweat equity. That means that they are outside alongside volunteers and supporters for Habitat, literally swinging a hammer on their very own home. I mean, where do you get to do that? Build your own home. It's a pretty neat opportunity. Families contribute about 300 to 350 hours of sweat equity. That can take them, 6 to 8 months to complete. And as you mentioned, Gordon, while they're building their brand new house, they're also working with our staff behind the scenes to make sure they're doing a budget, reviewing their credit, paying down debt, and of course, building savings. We know how important that is for those of us who have purchased a home.
Thus, that's where the financial education part of this all comes in, to make sure that not only are they performing the sweat equity involved, but also having a greater understanding of where they're going, where they are now, where they're going, and hopefully being to be in a successful winning position in the future, right?
That's exactly right. We really believe at Habitat that we are helping families equip themselves for sustainable homeownership. Getting into homeownership, getting your keys and taking that first step is a huge financial step for many families across the country. But, then what? Yeah. We want to make sure that we're really preparing families, to stay in that home, make sure that they're continuing to save, and importantly, not just from a financial perspective, but also putting down roots in their community, really becoming a community advocate, getting involved in their neighborhood association, and bringing forth a voice for their community. That's one of the beauties of homeownership, is being able to really lift up and revitalize communities and make them beautiful places for all families.
And so these homes that we're talking about yesterday are all in the Oak Cliff area, and I can only imagine, in this Zoom, being able to dedicate these homes and to celebrate on Zoom. It was quite an experience. I mean, it's kind of like when you talk about graduation ceremonies. It's different, and yet there are some, it's not all minuses. It's not all negative. It's, there are some really neat things, like you said, being able to share this not only here in Dallas and Fort Worth and North Texas, but, man, the huge audience of people that get to see this firsthand, and it is exciting.
That is exactly right. And, usually when we dedicate a home at Habitat, we get to see the home complete just before a family is moving in. Just before they actually move in all of their items and call that house their home. But in this weekend's virtual home dedication, for the first time, we had to have the opportunity of families giving us a sneak peek into their homes that they're actually living in.
Wow.
And that was really neat to be able to see a trampoline that they put in their backyard for their children, or their pet that they finally were able to get because now they have a yard, or that kitchen that they were dreaming about and now they've moved in and made it their own. So to your point, Gordon, it's really neat to see how bringing this event virtual has allowed us to see it through a different perspective. Really special.
Blaine, what I think is cool, too, is that, it's one thing when you have a role in planning and building, if you're having a house built, for example. It's another thing when you put in the sweat equity, 6 or 8 months, whatever it is, and you can say, well, yeah, you see this kitchen? I spent a great deal of time in here putting this together. And, oh, yeah, by the way, in putting it together, I worked on it as well, and it's because of much of the work that I did. My hands put this together.
There's nothing quite like saying I did this firsthand, It was really special. In the dedication this weekend, one of our families that we dedicated, Miss Reddick, who is such a sweet family, she shared a fun story about when she was building her home alongside the volunteers that she worked with. And she said, the day that we were out there, it was hot, people were uncomfortable. It started to rain mid-morning, and I thought for sure, okay, that's it. They're going to wrap the day. And she said, but Blaine, those rain clouds moved away. The sun came back out, and they said, time to get back at it. And I said to myself, she shared with us, I said, wow, look at how dedicated these individuals are to my home. This is something they've taken time out of their day to come and help me swing a hammer so that I have a safe place for my daughter and my grandchildren. And she was just very moved by others' generosity with that. She also shared, during that story, how she remembers that day having, cut siding for her house that she was putting on the back of her house. And she said, Blaine, it probably took me 3, 4, 5 times to get that siding just right. And I wanted to give up. And I said, no, this is my house. It needs to be done right. And I'm going to do this until I can get it down. And so it's pretty special to say, you can be living in that home and think about every time you walk in that backyard and look at that siding on your house to think, I did that. And it might not have been easy, but I did it.
That's awesome. Blaine Cowart, our guest here on the community for the next few moments. And again, the mission of Dallas Habitat continues in spite of this pandemic, and we're hearing about the great work that's happening at Habitat and the big ceremony that happened yesterday. Now, if someone wanted more information on Habitat locally online, how could they find you?
That's a great question. So we help any buyer. You don't have to live in Dallas to take advantage of the services that Dallas Habitat provides. Our financial education is free and available to anybody, anywhere. We're doing a lot of digital education online, and our housing counseling is available to anybody in DFW. To get information on our program, you can visit our website. That is www.dallasareahabitat.org.
All right, very good. Blaine Cowart, we thank you so much for joining us here on the community in this segment of the program, and all the best to you.
Gordon, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity.